So we have an amazing panel tonight to look at this luxury market and sales and home financing. And we're going to start with Anna. Where are you, Anna?
Hello.
And this is one special lady, Anna Bozovic. She's the founder of Analytics Miami, a leading source of data, insights into South Florida real estate. For the past decade, Anna and her depth reports have been an industry standard, relied upon by developers, investors, institutions to navigate one of the world's most dynamic markets here in South Florida. Hi, Anna.
Hello.
And Anna is a fierce fighter in MMA.
Jiu-jitsu.
Wow.
Jiu-jitsu.
She's fierce in everything.
Thank you.
That's amazing.
She has served for 4 terms as the governor of Miami Association of Realtors and frequently quoted in national and international media on real estate and global trends. With a background in mathematics and physics from Columbia University, Anna brings a rare analytical lens to the real estate market. It's her passion, one of her passions. Her work is known for cutting through the noise to identify underlying patterns that shape markets, placing local activity in the context of broader macroeconomic forces. Outside of her professional work, Anna is dedicated to jiu-jitsu. She competes regularly and trains with some of the best fighters in the world. So do not pick a fight with Anna tonight.
I have one of my training partners here too. He came. There you go.
Yes, right here. And he picks a fight with her, and she wins. Peggy Olin, Chief Executive Officer. Peggy, if you'll come forward, of One World Properties, one of the most respected in the luxury field. Since founding the company in 2008, she's overseen $5 billion with a B in sales. One World Property is also directing sales at Six and Rio here. Over the past 2 decades, Peggy and her team have been involved in sales of thousands of residences. I should recruit Peggy. Where is she? Peggy, where are you? Come on up, Peggy. Yeah, $5 billion, helping shape the Miami skyline and the city's evolution as a global real estate, no kidding, market, huh? It's worked in U.S. cities in over 60 countries, Peggy has. Her reputation, trusted as an advisor in institutional assignments. In 2010, she was elected as the Starwood Capital to oversee the sales and marketing of 10,000 residential portfolio, the largest of its kind. Today, One World Property operates offices in Miami, Fort Lauderdale. It is one of the only U.S. firms with permanent presence in China, Shanghai, and Beijing. Peggy is widely recognized for her leadership in the industry, including being named among South Florida's Business Journal's powerful leaders. She remains actively involved in the numerous communities and organizations throughout South Florida. Again, let's welcome Peggy.
Thank you.
This gentleman needs no introduction, but we'll do it anyways. Rich Campanella. Rich is a South Florida native with 36 years of experience in the mortgage industry. Over his career, he has successfully closed more than $2 billion in residential loans, including $281 million just last year, consistently ranking as the top producer in his industry. His lifelong connection to South Florida market gives Rich a unique understanding, as we know, of the local real estate trends and allows him to provide exceptional guidance to home buyers and to real estate professionals. For 2 decades, which would be about 20 years, he has also been the Master Broker's financial services sponsor liaison, helping many of us close challenging and complex transactions. And Rich helped me get my deal done. Didn't you, Rich, as I was going through that little special period in my life. Would you please help us welcome Rich Campanella? Then if I stay on this page, it says conclusion and final remarks. So how did you enjoy the presentation? To our panelists, we have seen these exciting headlines about big name, this is true, big name tech companies, hedge funds, billionaires relocating to South Florida over the past few months. The question is this momentum meaningful impacting Broward and Greater Fort Lauderdale, or is most of the demand still concentrating in Miami? So Anna, why don't you start with that question?
Okay, great.
I don't
Is
think
this
so.
working? No.
Right there.
Okay, we'll just use this one.
Yep.
All right, wonderful. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much.
Just hold it close.
Hello. Test. All right. Thank you, everyone, so much for being here. So in preparation for this evening, I did prepare a sheet of paper that I tried to hand to everyone that has a snapshot of... Can you hear me? Sorry? Okay. Yeah. That has a snapshot of the sales volume at upper tiers of price points in Broward County. So what's happening here in South Florida is still early days, as I've been saying since the immediate aftermath of COVID, and something that's a structural, profound change in our nation. And when it comes specifically to Broward County, of course, Broward County is in between Palm Beach and Miami-Dade counties, which have been on the receiving end of this exuberance of wealth transfer, we'll call it, from what I've been calling feeder jurisdictions, which are these high tax states that tended to be high lockdown states. And it's very important to understand fundamentally that there is no magic reversal of the trends that we're seeing. That this is a period of rapid transformation in our country where the immediate or the after is distinctly different and separate from the before. Change is inevitable in our world, right? And New York was the capital of the 20th century world, and nothing is forever. I grew up in New York City. I love it. It gives me no joy to say these things.
Yes.
I've been saying that they're going to keep doubling down on their hostilities towards wealth because that is the pattern that they are on. And when we have, for example, Jim mentioned the mayor of New York City, and I actually did not pay that much attention to him until a few months before the election, when I would see videos on Twitter that I thought were AI fabrications made to make him look bad, and then I realized he was actually saying those things, quoting the Communist Manifesto quite literally. And so what happens is that we're entering a period of rapid wealth migration globally and domestically. COVID broke habits long enough to allow for the formation of new ones, and people realize that due to the virtues of technology, they're no longer as beholden to their jurisdictions as they were before. And so we know this. There are stats on this. Globally, last year, we had an all-time high for the mobility of high net worth individuals globally.
Say that again.
Last year, when there was an all-time record, there was a record for the mobility of high net worth individuals globally. That's people changing their permanent address where they're registered over 6 months of the year, right? That's global. London is hemorrhaging millionaires, as an example. Yes, they're the biggest loser of millionaires right now. Within our country, of course, we have very clear patterns of migration of taxpayers out of high-tax blue states to us. We're leading the way with Texas. We're neck and neck, but we're 4 times smaller. This is not going to reverse. For this to reverse, we would have to somehow do a 180 in our policies and become like Mamdani and like Newsom in California, and that's highly unlikely. So we're going to keep receiving these taxpayers who are net positive to us, fueling our positive momentum. They're going to keep losing taxpayers. And remember, in a high tax jurisdiction, your top 1% account for almost 50% of your revenue. And so you kick them out, what happens? You accelerate your budget shortfalls. And we've all seen the news. Who's come to Miami or South Florida recently? We have Zuckerberg, we have the Google guys. This week in the news, we have the CEO of Starbucks. All of these people are taking huge chunks out of the coffers of their departure states. Due to the California billionaire tax, there's a tracker on this, something like 47 billionaires have already left, taking over $1.1 trillion of wealth with them. This accelerates their shortfall, which, paradoxically, will accelerate the hostilities towards wealth that are being undertaken by the vaguely socialist leaders in their states.
Do they pull people with them?
Yes.
You know, like tiers below them because they say they left.
Absolutely. So they're the headline because they're interesting. But the whole thing filters down. And we know this from census and IRS data that people with higher incomes are the ones that are moving. And this is not going to reverse. So again, when we're talking about luxury, again, taking this back to Broward County, the bar is rising all over South Florida. The bar for luxury in Broward was different than it was in Palm Beach and Miami-Dade before. There was less of it, right? Obviously, the price points were lower. But the same pattern is happening throughout. There is a lifting of the floor. And so what I've printed out for you that you have in front of you shows, for example, we have single-family sales over 1,000 a square foot, which would, when you go to higher prices per square foot, you isolate for newer prime product, right? Over 1,000 a foot, transaction volume is 10x what it was in 2019. That's pretty significant. Whenever you see spikes in data that are sustained and significant, it indicates a new force in the market. It's some new variable, something new has come. So we're seeing the same pattern in Broward that we're seeing in Palm Beach and Miami-Dade counties, where the higher up you go in price and price per square foot, by orders of magnitude, the market is outperforming pre-COVID realities. And I do not see this changing. This is a structural difference. And Broward is in between, and it's kind of surrounded by these wealth hubs, and it's being pushed in. And we're getting also, Broward is also benefiting from migration out of Miami-Dade County, not just migration from the state. So the floor is just rising all throughout South Florida. It just depends on the starting point, but the patterns are the same.
What significant people are moving into? When we spoke to get ready, Anna was telling about the significance of Palm Beach County receiving a lot of the wealth. Miami-Dade, as we know, receiving a lot of the wealth, and Broward sort of the infill for that. What's significant specifically moving into Palm Beach County? What corporations do you see? Can you speak to any specifics on that?
I mean, we had something in the news recently. Well, my brain just froze. It was the wealth management division of the major bank. It was Wells Fargo, I believe, correct? Right. That was very significant. That wasn't just a satellite office. That was a major headquarters that's moving into West Palm Beach County. And that's huge. That's not going to reverse again tomorrow. And that, again, is the headline, but it sort of portends a following.
Interesting. Peggy, do you want to weigh in on this?
Yeah, sure. Hi, good evening. Nice to see many of you, many friendly faces over the years. I don't want to age myself, but I've been around for a bit. What's exciting about this is that you have all these billionaires who are going to pump money also into what the cities need most, which is education, the arts, infrastructure. All of those are gifts, right? So if you're looking at Ken Griffin, for example, right? I mean, I know he's actively looking for campus space in Miami-Dade County, actively. Look what Stephen Ross has done in Palm Beach, bringing in Vanderbilt University in an area in West Palm Beach where, it was not the most desirable area to be in. All of a sudden, you're going to have a Vanderbilt campus there, and that's going to bring and attract a lot to that area. I think here in Broward County, as we've always been, I live here just down the street. I've raised my kids here. I love the city. Even though a lot of my work is in Miami, just by default, because obviously that's where most buildings are, and I focus on pre-construction development. Here, I'm very proud to represent Six in Rio, and we have other projects. Here in the city as well. But what's exciting is that in Fort Lauderdale, there's a lot more quietness, right? A lot of people, there's understated wealth that's into the city. I see it. I'm on the board of the Performing Arts Center, and I see the benefactors. I see what people are coming to the city, what they're donating, what they're interested in. And it's been a change that I've seen over the last 5 years in Broward County, and I'm excited to see that it's going to continue to rise. As you mentioned, and we talked about it in our call the other day, is Broward County is in the middle always, right? But it will continue to rise, and I think that the infrastructure and the attention that we continue to pay to the airport that's expanding, and how are people when they arrive, what is the impact that they see, right? They're gonna go into a car. What is that taxi gonna feel like? The city has to be putting a lot more effort into that, and I know they're very conscious of that. But the F&B and the hotels and all of that, having great restaurants opening in the city has really been a game changer, and I think we're going to continue to see that.
Rich, do you want to weigh in?
Sure. So I see it on the ground. I work Miami, both Miami and Broward. So I'm getting tons of customers from Miami that have sold their properties, and they get just what I'm being told, more for their buck, or it's schools. They're having such a problem with schools down there, getting into private schools, whatever. I've got a guy who just sold a $4 or $5 million house and's buying something that's almost double that here because of the schools and just getting everybody up here. So we are seeing the flow in from Miami to Broward. Palm Beach, I'm not seeing as much coming that way, but it seems to be definitely coming up from Miami.
Thank you, Rich. So let's switch here. It says, with multiple condo projects launching and delivering, including 6 in Rio, is downtown Fort Lauderdale entering its prime growth phase? Or do you have concerns about too much product chasing the same pool of buyers? So why don't we start with you on that, Peggy?
So I think, we're getting buyers that are not able to afford a home on the water on the walkable neighborhood. And I think a lot of people are looking for walkability. Therefore, you see some of the projects that are happening here downtown. You see the importance of being close. People value, especially after COVID, everybody values their time, more time at home, being able to walk. All of you see it with your buyers. They want to be close to the action. And this is a reason why we continue to see downtown Fort Lauderdale. So it depends on what the project is. There are times that I get my team, we get developers that are looking into building something new in the city. And we, respectfully decline working on it, mainly for several reasons. Number one is velocity, right? In order for a project to get started, you need to get a certain threshold of sales. Most of them are about 40%. And in order for some of these developers that have bought land they probably bought it originally to become a multifamily development, and the multifamily just does not pencil, and they can't make the numbers work. They want to shift it to condo. But the issue is that the condos are, it's very difficult to sell 400 units at a one bedroom for $700,000 because we just don't have those type of buyers right now. Actually, they're not here nor in Miami. The only velocity we see in Miami and some of the condos that we have is the ability to have that international buyer who's placing money just from an investment standpoint, but not from a pure residential standpoint. So we are careful into what we see, but we will continue to see some of the things. There's not a lot of prime land. If you see, there's really not a lot of prime land here, and the city of Fort Lauderdale continues to want to keep this charm as well, right? They say, it's a small town charm, and that's what people love about Fort Lauderdale. So I know that, we continue on the beach, we will continue to see some of the developments that are coming, which are fantastic, but obviously more inland, it becomes a little bit more challenging.
So the product mix, getting the right product, I hear you saying having the right product mix is super critical in this market in order to get the velocity and get the sales done.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody else want to weigh in on that? Does anybody want to, in a way of a follow-up to Anna, does anybody have a question they want to right now direct to Anna based on her previous comments? Yes, please. Michael?
Anna, you
Loudly, please.
Anna, you referred to volume.
Mhm.
And just to be clear,
I'll repeat the question.
you referred to volume. Is that in regards to the number of units or the actual price of sell velocity going up?
Sales volume, the number of units sold past certain thresholds.
Dollars.
Correct.
10x. I think you said 10x.
Yeah, 10x was the growth for single family home sales past 1,000 a square foot in Broward County.
Okay, so that was a segment of that.
Repeat that.
Correct. Yeah, he asked what I meant by the growth factor. So I'm talking about sales volume, the number of properties sold. So this is a metric that I like to watch for all of South Florida. I find it very interesting because when I look at data, I try to see where the biggest change is. The change shows you where there was a new force or something happening. And when you look at big data sets, you can find the inflection points in the change. That's where you can identify, again, the presence of the force, right? So we know that South Florida is in the receiving end of this wealth and talent migration. I've been saying that entrepreneurship flows towards the path of least resistance. That's really what's happening. And when you look at our market here in South Florida, Tri-County, the same pattern applies, Tri-County. When you look at the segmentation, the biggest spikes in data, the biggest change is seen when you filter for on the resale market, when you filter for price per square foot, when you filter on that basis. That's where we see the meteoric and sustained growth. And that to me indicates that the new force that's present, that I believe is the wealth and talent migration, that these incoming refugees, that they're overwhelmingly being drawn to new and prime product, because when you filter for higher prices per square foot, you're filtering for new and prime product by definition. And that's where we're seeing the biggest spikes in transaction volume all throughout South Florida. So my point was that in Broward, single family home sales past 1,000 a foot were up 10x versus 2019.
So just to follow up to that $1,000 a square foot, is that attributable to newer construction or the building costs to generate a retail price for newer construction and buyers are just capitulating and paying it? In other words, is it a combination of both? Or
I mean, buyers are capitulating. They're paying. Why they're paying, I don't know, but they're paying. The market is clearing at those levels. But it's a combination of factors that we're seeing. Obviously there's cost of land, cost of construction, all of those things. And the same logic applies to the condo market, right? There's no new product that I know of under $1,000 a foot. Pretty much it's impossible, right? So because of cost of land, cost of all those things, the condo space and everything else, you're not able to introduce product at lower price points. Even if you want to, you cannot. And so in the single family home market, what's happening, TriCap, that I'm seeing is that because people are buying lots, and when they're building something new, they're maximizing the lot and shooting for a higher price, and they're getting it. So no one is delivering. It's impossible to deliver a $500,000 house within any proximity of any urban core. And so the floor of that market is rising as well all throughout South Florida. But
so just last
Mike, you're only entitled to 2, and you're asking for 3.
But we appreciate your enthusiasm. So, Peggy, in your sales centers across South Florida, are luxury buyers cautious, confident, optimistic? What questions are they asking today that they weren't asking 2 years ago? So, in the sales center, are luxury buyers cautious, confident, optimistic? What questions are they asking today that they didn't ask 2 years ago? Bum, bum, bum.
That's an easy one. The first one is this going to be built? Right? I mean, that's really the biggest question. If I am going to buy pre-construction and I'm going to give you my money for X amount of years, talking about what we were discussing before, velocity, right? You got to get to a 40% threshold of any building before anybody developer starts construction, except with one that I'm working with, that they're doing the New York model and they're just building. And okay, you have to have guts to do that. This is why, and just a plug-in, but this is why Six and Rio is successful. It's people want to see this being delivered. I mean, it's important to people, especially now in the pre-construction. The other thing that's really important is, what am I getting for my money? I think what's happened, what we've seen over the last 3 years, a lot of the product that's been delivered, the product that has been delivered has not matched what was promised or what was seen in sales offices. Why? Because cost of construction has risen. So therefore, people are cutting corners. They're value engineering things. And and I think that's really important for buyers. A lot of times I'm asking today, especially if it's an end user, they want a detail, they want brands, they want to know, what are we getting? I want to know exactly where the kitchen cabinet is coming from, because this is, unfortunately, we've seen this happen across the board.
Interesting. Yeah, that's a good. Is it going to get built? Huh? So the strength of the developer, the money behind it, is probably really super important at this time. Rich, we're going to switch to you. If you'll give Rich the mic. Rich, the question is what percentage of the ultra wealthy, those buying at $4 million and above, are paying cash versus obtaining some amount of financing?
Well, my numbers last year speak for themselves. It was an incredible year. And what's happened is these wealthy buyers are where they were buying cash before. They see so much opportunity coming that they'll pay cash for it, and we're doing recoup loans where we'll go back in afterwards. They'll get their best deal with that. They'll come back afterwards and get financing for us. So we're doing a ton of recoup loans. They don't care they think that interest rates are great. They want to be ready for that next wave of people, next wave of properties coming up so they can invest in those. And you and I spoke a little bit about the Canadians. We're doing a lot of Canadian loans because the same thing. It's so expensive for them to take money out. They'd rather borrow it here and do it that way.
Interesting. I hadn't considered that. So they instead of moving Canadian dollars, you didn't tell us that on the phone, Rick. You just
might have to say something.
Oh, you had to say something.
I have to save some material for the show, right?
Question?
Yes.
Yeah, to go on that, so the Canadian dollar is not very good right now to our dollar.
Right.
So how does their borrowing money here from you affect them paying that amount?
I mean,
the question is, why do they borrow money here instead of moving Canadian dollars? That's the question.
The dollar is not good, so.
I know, but when you borrow U.S. dollars, you're not bringing Canadian dollars
Right,
over.
but they gotta pay it back.
Go ahead.
So-
Yeah, they're telling me that they'd rather borrow it here than actually take it out of their country and bring it over. That's what they're telling me. We're doing a lot of the Canadian ones because of it.
It's interesting to see how much Canadian money of the ultra wealthy are coming into the country. So let's look for another question. You know, Anna just answers all the questions with the first opening. So it really
Sorry, everyone.
in a very awkward position.
Oh, no.
We have to-
That was not my intent, Jim. Let's go.
Holy cow. Please.
For Anna, are you give this 10x, is that driving up the values for the non-new product? $1,000 of threshold is also going up the new properties.
I mean, that was a single family figure for Broward because there's very little condo resale past those points. The condos up also. So to the point, I mean, single family median pricing has almost doubled all across South Florida anyway, so the values have all gone up. I also look at it this way. It's the people that are coming here, who are coming here to do business here, who tend to be higher earning people, they're overwhelmingly buying new prime products. That's just where we're seeing it in the data in the condo market and the single family home market. In the single family home market, lower priced homes, the floor has risen for them also. I mean, here's a shocking stat. The same pattern applies Tri-County. I just happen to have it memorized from Miami-Dade County. The number of active listings in Miami-Dade County under $500,000 for single family homes. So this is super shocking. In 2019, in any given month, there were around 4,000, 3,900 to 4,200, whatever. We'll call it 4,000 active listings for single family under $500,000. Now, in any given month in Miami-Dade County, they're between 600 and 700. It's down 80%.
What?
Yeah.
Because there's no product.
They're gone, and the pricing's gone up. Median pricing's almost doubled. And then anyone who's purchasing the land to build is building at a more expensive price. That's why we're seeing $500,000 townhomes launching new in Homestead. In Florida City, down there, it doesn't exist. So that the floors, the same pattern is playing out across South Florida. For the condo market, there is a distinction because the older stock is challenged by that law change in the state with the reserve requirements and so forth. So some buildings are in predicaments for their own reasons, and they have difficulty selling, et cetera, et cetera. So in the condo market, the lower price points, it's not the same equation because there is a build-up for the ones that cannot sell. The older buildings that were not a disaster, because they're not all disasters, the one that did an okay job, they're actually in a great, interesting, unique position because they're far below replacement cost and there is no new inventory that will ever compete. So if you want to spend under $500,000 and buy a 2-bedroom, where are you going to go? Anything pre-construction under $500,000 is a studio in a condo hotel, correct? There's nothing else. So they're okay. So the condo market needs to be kind of subdivided that way. But in single family, no. We can't add more inventory vertically. There's a finite supply of lots for single family and people keep coming.
So not that I know much, but I think there's going to be a great opportunity in those older buildings that are well positioned.
Yeah.
And that market's going to get stronger because there's no alternative to it.
Nope.
And as you say,
Not even close. There's no alternative.
So take a lot of condo listings.
Well, they're not selling now.
No, they will. They're going to. Peggy, as realtors, I had the good fortune. I spent a couple days in Vegas in a luxury symposium. This question lends to that. As realtors representing the ultra wealthy, what style and characteristics of interactions are the ultra wealthy individuals and families looking for from their master brokers? So the question is, as master brokers representing the actions, are these ultra wealthy looking for from us?
So we just gotta have Anna very close, right? people like data. I think, look, 80% of the sale a lot now gets done online, right? How many people look at the house 100 times before they come see the listing, or they see the pre-construction project online and they call, the sales office, or they call an agent who's advertising the project because they think it's a sales, it's one of the websites from the developer, but it's not. I mean, we come across all these things. Most of the sale is done online. So what happens is that I feel like the interaction that we have with these buyers, it's so important because we got to show our value as people, right? As not only, yes, obviously we have data, but they're looking for so much more. What's happening in the neighborhood? What is the school like? Who's in there? What's part of it? They're looking for all this extra tips and just normal, aspects of life that I think especially for people that are moving down here. I wanted to add to something that Rich had said before, just for fun facts, since we're talking about data. We are in the middle of closing on 3 different buildings for us in Miami. About between December 15th and April 15th, we would have closed about 1,300 units that we had sold in pre-construction. It's all delivering at the same time. And I was looking at one of the buildings that we did with Related, and I was looking at the closings. 90% of them were cash. Another building I saw today were about 80% of the 400 units that were closed cash. The amount of cash that's in the market, it's incredible. It never stops to surprise me of the amount and of cash coming into the market. And kind of like you said, people are paying cash. They don't want to wait, especially a lot of them, if they're international buyers, right? It really, they just, they don't want to deal with a mortgage now. They may look into it later. I'm not sure how your mortgage programs are for international buyers, but it's not as straightforward for them. So I'm just continuing to see the appetite for well-priced properties, similar to the homes where you don't have lots and people are trying to maximize square footage on a small lot and trying to build. Is the same phenomenon that we're seeing in the condo market, where unless you have a AAA waterfront, beachfront location that you can, build or somewhere, with a fantastic address that you can build, 2,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms and a den with 2.5 bathrooms that people are willing to pay, $3.5 million for. People are opting to go smaller, right? They're opting to maybe, have a pied-à-terre on a small, somewhere walkable, whether it's Miami Beach or disconnected, or if it's, or here, nearby. But it's interesting to see the migration, and also with all this, the employees that are coming down from all these firms that are coming, whether it's Blackstone or everybody from Ken Griffin. Though we haven't seen any of these people moving, by the way. The offices are not fully done. If we think about Blackstone, they only have like 40 people here. They have an office, but the biggest migration will come in the next 2 years. The same with Griffin. Nobody is from Chicago's here. I think they have a very small team until they build their building. So all of these people, we're still yet to see. So it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. It just at the point, it's 2 million square feet of Class A in Brickell between Ken Griffin's building and the new Santander Bank headquarters. And they're not done, so they haven't come yet. Yeah.
Do you want to add, Rich, anything about financing programs for the offshore buyers, or?
They've become a little more difficult in the political climate right now, but they're definitely out there. So we're tossing around a couple new programs that we're looking at for some of these buyers.
So what comes to mind is all this wealth comes to South Florida, and then we don't have a service sector to support the growth for those that are in the service sector that are providing the hotels and the restaurants and such. It's a real concern. So how do we deal with that? I'm not sure we do. I guess we need trains, huh? Anybody want to? It's not on the script.
Off script here, we're going.
This is all exciting and everything until you lose your service sector and affordable housing. It's a real concern for us, and this is not uncommon to other marketplaces. You want to weigh in on Anna? You got a solution?
I don't have a solution. So my solution. I am a little bit optimistic about the Live Local Act. We're seeing some early projects coming with that, but I think you touched upon this. When we have all these with the schools, right? We have all these. It's not just money. It's people who are creators. Why are they so rich? Because they've created things, and we have this concentration of very powerful creators that are coming to South Florida who seem to be fully invested with their time, their businesses, their families, their money. And I'm optimistic that solutions will emerge when you concentrate that many smart creators in a place. And then, I grew up in New York City. I've been here for 13 years, but I grew up in New York City. And it's not like I think that is the model to follow, but when people from New York who are perhaps a little bit begrudging of our success down here for various reasons, as has a lot of the press has been, when they'll say, "Oh, there's this squeeze with affordable housing or price attainable housing, all these things," they forget that New York City is one of the most difficult places to live in if you're not affluent. And we're not even approaching those levels of. I mean, I grew up in New York City. Ask anyone renting their first apartment in New York City. It's like you have PTSD for the rest of your life. It's a horrible experience. No, it's true. It absolutely is true. Even given the recent price increases here, it pales in comparison to the horrors of New York City real estate. And New York City, at the zenith of its power, we'll call it, right before this post-COVID dissipation, where everybody wanted to be there, it was an extremely difficult place to live. But that did not deter from its status, because when a place is perceived as the place to be, where there's action, where there's business, where the energy is there, we know this from the example of New York City. People will suffer all sorts of indignities to be there. The subway, the rats, the cold, all of these things, right? We don't have anything approaching that. I hope that we never do. And I'm optimistic that we will create solutions, because again, we have this huge concentration of creators coming into a city that in many ways is a blank slate. New York City is not. New York was built 100 years ago, largely. We're very much a blank slate in comparison. And I think that there's an optimistic path that I like with the schools. There's solutions that will be created for schools, and I'm optimistic that there'll be some sorts of solutions created. But again, we're nowhere near approaching the level of difficulties that New York has had in this topic.
I'm guessing that rail is going to solve a lot of this. So people leave either to the north or to the south, and our service sector will travel on rail. So developing out our rail is going to be super critical for that service sector.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, roofs bring retail, right?
Say that again.
Roofs bring retail, I always say, right? So now that we have a lot more people coming, more people will make the investments, more restaurateurs, more things will be happening, we will continue to see. And to the point of the Bright Line, that's another option, because people will be living here. I mean, I commute on the Bright Line. I mean, I live here, and my office is in downtown Miami. I go on the Bright Line since it opened.
Bright Line is great.
And it's fantastic. So a lot more people will be doing that. Will be commuting from Fort Lauderdale to Palm Beach or Miami, wherever their headquarters are.
I think we might have to spend a little money on the tri-rail. It's not the fanciest of transportation, but it moves.
Yeah. I mean, it's expensive.
It's a Bright Line.
It's expensive for people. So that's why they go on the tri-rail. It's a little slower, but and then to your point of low-income housing, I mean, some of the projects that I'm seeing coming online in Fort Lauderdale, things that I'm seeing, it includes some of the live local, right? A lot of these people are putting it in there because they want the density, right? They want to maximize density. So it's but I think it will be good for the city.
I think we're kind of at our end here. Question.
What's going to happen to the residential real estate market if they abolish the sales tax?
The sales tax, you mean the property tax?
Yeah, that's a whole other panel.
Yeah.
Good things. All right. That's the quick answer.
Your question doesn't qualify.
HBC requires a whole separate.
I'm having a hard time framing this question, but I direct it to the two of you. It sounds like the macro tailwinds are that a lot of wealthy people are going to be ultimately in the next 5 years piling into Southeast Florida. When I look at your data, you're looking at $1,000 a foot. If it costs $1,000 a foot to sell anything, that's a 1,000 square foot unit at $1 million. So my question really is, how do we reconcile the inbound profile of the customer coming to South Florida that's a high net worth or ultra high net worth person, arguably more senior than junior, probably has a family, probably not looking for 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet. And where does that take you in terms of a product profile, in terms of a distribution of unit mix in buildings that are coming to the market in the next couple of years relative to size and price points? Because it sounds like to me we are definitely moving to larger units. And I would be interested to hear your response to that relative to programming.
Well, location, right? I mean, it dictates a lot. I mean, the larger units, You know, you can build anything. I mean, everything that I'm working on right now, the cheapest project that I'm working on for, you know, starting next year for any launch is $1,300 a foot, right? You can't build it. And I'm not talking on the water. I'm just saying is anything. You just can't build it.
What's the
So when you're looking at
what's the square footage base? In other words, you don't consider building anything less than this.
depends. So if you're on the water, right, it's a very different formula than if you're in inland or downtown. So if you're on the water and you have a beautiful 2-bedroom, you know, you want to have a nice space, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or 2.5 bath. I love den, so I always say, you know, put a den in there, 2-bedroom, 2.5 bath. You know, you're talking at 1,800 square foot minimum,
Okay.
right? So if we want to call it 2,000, and you know, if you want to build a nice product, you're not, you know, you have to build something that is at least $1,500-$1,600 a foot. And that's the challenge. The challenge is that the velocity of who is the buyer,
Yeah.
unless you are on the water
Okay.
or on the sand,
Okay.
you're not going to see the same velocity.
So what are the water and the sand? What's the minimum square footage?
Well, I mean, there you can pull like 3,000 square foot units, you know. But I love flexibility. I always say to developers, you know what? Build 4 units per floor, do the 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, but then have the flexibility to combine them.
Okay.
Because that way you're not married into the product. You have flexibility to do it.
Excellent. Anna?
Just to carry on her point, that's a little bit of single-family replacement because the single-family market is so tight and more can't be added vertically. But then also just to the point of pricing, there is a real floor in terms of cost to build that you mentioned. So it's not that people are only choosing to build things at a certain price point because they really want to. It's they can't deliver it for less because of all these supply constraints. So that math is kind of there throughout. So it's not it's not possible to deliver condos at, you know, 1,300 is the cheapest here. I keep saying 1,000 a foot. There's nothing in South Florida, but that 1,000 a foot isn't even accurate anymore. That's just the reality of what it costs to deliver product.
We'll take one more question. How have you enjoyed this?
Awesome, great information.
Well, I just want to thank, yes.
So Anna, you do the reports on $1,000 a square foot here, and I know in Miami you're focusing more on the 2,000 plus per square foot price range.
I publish both actually, but
Do you have
yeah.
reports for Broward as well?
So I on my Miami report, I published 1,000, 2,000, and I actually started adding 3,000 a foot because that's happening now too. There's new frontiers in pricing happening. I called it a new reality is emerging. I added a new page to my report. So I don't publish extensive Broward reports. I just pull this data here for you guys tonight.
As a favor, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. But it is the same. It's the same pattern. The floor is different in Broward. Palm Beach County, Miami-Dade are behaving very similarly as an example, and then Broward is following the same pattern, just at a different floor. But I mean, for example, like on the upper, you know, it's really is astounding the number of high net worth buyers pouring in and the amount of cash that Peggy mentioned also. Plus, so in Miami-Dade, past 30 million, we had record sales volume, and it was last year, and it was 90% all cash. And what they're doing after the purchase, I don't know, but it was 90% all cash at the close.
So the only thing standing in between the food and me is me. So I'm gonna get out of here. Let's give a big hand.
If I could just give one more, so this is going to be in the press next week. I made a second page there with a little bit of announcement. Just worked out with the timing. I did a soft launch this week, but it's going to be in the press and announced next week. So Analytics Miami is where I publish these reports, like the extensive Miami report and everything else. That's been around for 10 years, and that's going to remain the way it is. The press likes to quote me as Professor Anna. That's kind of my thought leadership. Professor Anna platform. So there's something new coming out. Well, it's live right now, but it'll be in the press next week. It's called MiamiDealSheet.com, and we're calling it South Florida's first institutional level advisory for residential real estate, focusing on the pre-construction pipeline. So you can go check out what's there right now. It'll be in the press next week. You guys got the secret scoop, and thank you all very much.
Would you like to make a closing comment?
No, I think that I know we're navigating interesting times, but I think 2026 is a year of getting ready. I find that this is our year of getting all of our ducks in a row. Just take the time, all the things you couldn't do, you didn't do, start using AI. Find everything that you can in your power, because I feel like, you know, we're in for a good ride.
Rich?
I agree.
I agree with you. I think we're in for a great ride. Rich?
I think the bump in interest rates that we've seen over the last couple of days will steady over the next couple of months. So just hang in there. And Ben finally decided to tie the knot. He's getting married in October.
Yes.
That's
I
exciting.
want to mention the Live Local Act.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel the Live Local Act will affect prices around you for condos? We have a Live Local Act, or I did by the Galleria Mall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
9 rental buildings.
yeah.
How do you feel that's going to affect the people?
I mean, the Live Local Act
Live Local
requires
Act.
for the 40% of the units will be within, I mean, honestly negligible. I don't think it'll have a, no, I really don't. Because what is Live Local Act requires that up to at least 40% of the units be within a certain percentage of the area median income, right? Is it?
Yeah, but I'm not so concerned about that. I'm concerned about more of the traffic and the
Oh.
amount of rentals that are in the local vicinities. Not just me, the residents.
I mean, I can't speak to traffic volume in a
I understand
certain
the
neighborhood, but
empanadas are great.
let's go. Yeah, I know. Let's go.
Carolyn and Jason's leadership here on the day-to-day, and to all of you, thank you for being with us on the Ticket Video. Great product to sell right away, and they're paying big money. Big money. Thank you, folks. Let's enjoy.
I'm a lawyer.